What's up, everybody? How about Cage, episode 195? Woo! Getting up there in numbers. Brought to you by Arena Club, Bigger Trading. For now, who knows? But anyway, that's current. You see it from your card hat. We're going to talk about that a little bit today, too, and how that, the new way to access funds are changing the way that people collect, the way that I personally collect. Start off with a couple things here. I got two topics for you today. When's it okay to sell? What a silly little title, but I'll explain what I mean by that because it's always okay to sell, but sort of the psychology behind it and what goes into it, and one of the things I'm currently dealing with myself vis-a-vis my own collection, and then just the overall state of the hobby from Cheetos to Dicks to just what Fanatics is doing all overall in the space. And we'll try to keep it short. I know you guys, sometimes you want a marathon episode where you can get on the treadmill and run for 45 minutes, and sometimes you just want something you can take a dump to. So that's what I'm here for. When you think about taking a dump, I want you to think about Cage. I mean, that's kind of where I go. So when's it okay to sell? Let me tell you what I'm going through. Let me tell you where I am and what's going on in my collection. Anybody who's listened to me for more than 2 or 3 episodes knows one of the big things I bring here, one of the big things I talk about probably dozens of times over the last, wow, I guess it's 4+ years now of doing podcasts and content, is auditing your collection, auditing your PC, auditing what you have, making sure it's still what you enjoy, making sure it's still what you like, making sure it's still what you want to own. And, if it's not something that you want to own, moving that stuff and moving it into something that you do want to own. And I've been going through that myself. And the funniest part about it is, I know what I like card wise. I'm a vintage baseball guy. If you got to put me in a category, right? I got a card recently that was not that. That was something that probably would surprise a lot of you guys. And holding the card in hand, I kind of understood a little more of what people talk about when they make these posts like cards are the modern art. Cards are art. You can hang them on your wall. How people like art and they invest in art, and art is out there. And, you got to think of cards like art. And a lot of that has to do with, the alternate asset category that people invest in art. And, you got to look at cards as kind of like investment. But the card itself was something that I thought was like art. It had artistic qualities to it. You could say that about some vintage baseball cards, but not about a lot of the stuff that I own, right? Not about a lot of the cards that I own. And it's funny too, right? I mean, some of the cards that I own are cool cards. Some of the cards that I own are cards that I've owned for a long time, cards that speak to me from a collecting perspective, cards that I couldn't own when I was a kid, but I can own now and be like, that's cool. That's an awesome card. But I've started to do a little bit of auditing in my own mind. And let's talk about one particular card. And it doesn't matter what the card is. I'm not even going to tell you what the card is because I want you to kind of close your eyes and think about a card in your collection that this applies to. Because you all have it, right? You all have purchased a card. You all have made a purchase of a card that you had a thesis about, right? You thought it was an underappreciated card. You thought it was an undervalued card. You thought it was a card that spoke to you for some reason, whether it was a player that you thought was going to catch on and just hadn't, and then boom, he took over, he took off, his card prices took off, whether it was SGA or who knows, right? Maybe it was, Select instead of Prism, and you thought that the gap between Prism and Select was too wide, and, Select has caught up on certain cards, and you were right, and you nailed it. And let's say you bought this card, and you really like the card. You really want to own that card. But so do a lot of other people, and there's not a lot of them out there. And so you've gotten offers. You're starting to entertain offers for the card. And you're getting offers for the card for significantly more than what you paid. Hence the title, when's it okay to sell? Now, the answer is it's always okay to sell. But do you really want to sell? Do you really need to sell? And this has been where my brain has been for quite some time on this one individual card. The card, again, is irrelevant. But I'll tell you where my brain goes with this. Half of me says, take the money and run. You were right about the card. You bought it cheap. You bought it for a bargain. You bought it at a price that the market was not appreciating it at. You've held the card, and now the market has come around to your thesis. The market has caught up, and you have a chance to make meaningful profit on this card, and you never really get hurt taking that profit. That is a very rational way of thinking. And when you layer in that there have been run-ups in cards before, that I personally had offers on cards that I didn't take because I was emotionally attached to those cards. I didn't take them. I did not take the offer. And I regretted it. As the price of the card went down, the offer disappeared. So half of me says, sell the card. Sell it. Because the market's caught up and it's no longer the same as when you bought it. It's no longer a bargain. And you can get what it's worth. But here's the second half of the equation. What are you going to do with the money? Because this is a card you might not be able to get back. Where are you going to put that money? Are you going to be able to find something that is similarly undervalued by the market? Are you going to find something that you are going to see growth with over time? Is that growth going to be more than if you just held on to this card? And then more importantly, do you get enjoyment from being the owner of this card? Are you going to regret seeing it go? We've all seen that. We see people sell cards that they bought, they were right on. And then the inevitable post comes about how they're missing the card they bought, how they're missing the card that they sold, They purchased it. They were right. They made the money. They felt good about making the money, but they're now trying to fill that void in their collection with that card missing. And they can't seem to replace that card. They try. They use the money and buy something else, something second best. But then you flip over, well, if I hang on to this card, maybe the one high offer that I should be taking now, maybe they find another one somewhere else, or maybe they move on and they move their money into something else. And then I regret not moving the card and maximizing my profit on it. Maybe I regret not selling it. Am I okay with that? This is where my brain is presently. And it's a fun thing about the hobby because this is not hobby conversation. This is investing conversation. Hell, it's hobby conversation because I think there's no wrong way of hobbying. And part of what makes this hobby fun is that it is sort of that alternate asset class. It is an area where, like people who invest in stocks and do research and find that, diamond in the rough, part of what you enjoy is being right and being first and seeing your thesis proven out. Sure, plenty of people just like owning the card. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what's funny about it is I've gotten into a different kind of headspace when it comes to what my collection is going to look like. Everybody saw a Joe Jackson Cracker Jack card come for sale recently, right? 1914 Cracker Jack. You vintage baseball guys, you've seen it. Sold for $150,000. I was bidding on that, and I stopped bidding well under $150,000. One, because even though it's a 1.5, it had some condition issues that caused it to be a 1.5. There was a tear in the card that a lot of people aren't talking about. Actual rip. Those Cracker Jack cards, if you've never held one raw, you should, because those cards are paper thin. Very different than what you think of as a card today because they were inserted in Cracker Jack boxes. That's why you get the staining on the cards, because they were actually in there with the caramel and the corn. But they're thin, and that card's a 1.5. And what's funny about it is I was making a run at that card, but I did my research. As rare as they are, and as much as you want to say it's as rare as Honus Wagner, it's not. They sell pretty damn often. Now, that was a nicely centered card, but the price it sold for, there have been SGC 4s that sell for that price recently. And if you look, you don't have to look that far. Just go on Card Ladder and click sales. One sells every couple of months. And why do I bring that card up? Well, because it was in the news recently, and because I bid on it, and because it was a card that I was interested in myself at the right price. I bring that card up because the availability of cards, the supply, matters. I'm going to say something that I didn't think I would say ever in my collecting journey. I should just go get them. I have them, but I don't want to waste your time. There are 3 cards that have been in my PC for a damn long time. Cards that I like owning because they speak to me and the collector kid. The 89 Upper Deck Griffey Jr. that you see right behind me in PSA 10. I traded away my Griffey Juniors for Jerome Walton cards as a kid. Go after the new shiny thing, right? Jerome Walton won Rookie of the Year. I traded away my Griffey 89 Upper Deck. And I didn't have a 10 anyway. My factory set, I pulled the Griffey out of it and opened up the set, and it had a ding in the corner because it was card number 1. It was right there, against there was like a stopper in the Upper Deck sets. A 92 Upper Deck Shaq, the black card with the dunking, 3 versions of him. And an 84 Don Mattingly Donruss, all in PSA 10. These are all cards that I chased as a kid. The 84 Donruss, I had the 84 Tops. There's no way I could afford the Donruss as a kid. Owning that in PSA 10 was a huge get for me. Same thing with the Upper Deck Shaq. Same thing with that Upper Deck Griffey. But I'm actually thinking about selling all 3 of them now to fund other cards. Why? Because just like that Joe Jackson, those cards are readily available. Even in those high grades. There are thousands of that Griffey in PSA 10. Now, if I sell Mattingly now for $3,500, yeah, maybe in a year or 2 or 3, if I want to buy it back, I got to pay $3,800. But it's there, it's available. And if I could use that $3,800 now to buy a card that might not be available, a card that's rarer, a 1 of 1, a card out of 5, that I won't be able to get because once it's in its forever collection, it's there forever, and people don't want to get rid of it. That's why my brain is on the cards now, the right cards. It doesn't have to be a 1 of 1 or even out of 5. Well, there are cards where there's 50 of them, but it's 50 Tom Brady's, it's 50 Messi's, it's 50 Jordans, and 48 of them have been in the same collections for the last bunch of years, and they're not going anywhere. So even though it's numbered and there's a supply of them, the supply is not available, not at a price you actually want to get the card for. Same kind of thing applies, right? Like if I can't get a Griffey for $3,500, now I get it for $3,600. I overpay. I'll probably be able to walk into most shows and find one. It's not a card I need to have. If I could use that money and put it towards something else, that's a card that might not come up for sale. That's where my brain is now. And I don't know if that makes sense to everybody. It probably doesn't. I mean, it's a different conversation than a lot of collectors would have. Collectors say, I want to own the card. That's what collecting is. I want to collect. I want to be a collector of the cards that I love. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's been me for a very long time. That 89 Upper Deck that sells for a couple $1,000s now. I paid $300 for it many, many, many years ago. And I've had it since then. The Mattingly, I paid hundreds, not thousands. The Shaq, I paid hundreds, not thousands. I've had them for a while, and they've appreciated in value slowly. But those are cards I can get another one. You all have cards you can get another one. If you have an opportunity, I believe, to consolidate those cards into a card that you might not be able to get as easily, that's the play. And there you go. That's what I'm wrestling with. I have not resolved this in my own brain. I really haven't. The consolidating the collection, sure, I've got that. And hell, I'm even ready to sell Babe Ruth cards. Yeah, you heard me right. Because even those I can get again. If the opportunity comes up to get something that I might not be able to get in the future, easy. The selling part, that's the tough part for me. Especially because now, instead of selling a Griffey or a Shaq and selling those cards and knowing that I will be able to buy them again, the reason why these other cards appreciate so much, why there is so much profit to be had, is because someone has to come and get it from you because they can't get it from anyone else. If that kind of card is something that you're holding, you have to realize that most likely, if you do sell it while you're going to cash out and make a hell of a lot of profit, you are not getting that card back. And before you sell, you have to come to grips with that. That's where I am now. Those are the cards that I'm looking for. Those are the kind of cards that I want to keep in my PC. And those are the kind of cards that I lean towards keeping in my PC and not selling. At least that might be, after talking it out with you guys for 16 minutes, might be the way I'm currently leaning. But by tomorrow, I may flip-flop again. It's been one of those fun little exercises. And by the way, I love it because it's just another part of the space that I had never really been involved in. I never really chased rare cards like this. I chased what I would call more liquid cards. And I was having a conversation with somebody recently about a 33 Gaudy Ruth, and they called it a commodity card. They called it a liquid card, even though in the grade that I own, my number 53, the yellow Ruth, it's not liquid. Less sales of that recently than there have been for the Cracker Jack Joe Jackson, because at that grade and higher, there's 100 and something of them, just like the Joe Jackson. People kind of hang on to them, but you can go get another one. I can go get another one. There are other ones out there, better ones out there. Mine's got pretty nice eye appeal. Anyway, it's an interesting thought exercise, and it's just another one of those things that I enjoy doing with the hobby. It's like trying to find the stock. It's like trying to pick a stock. It's like, and do you sit with it? It went up in value. Do you sit with it? Do you hold it? Stocks are a little different, though, because you can always buy more. You can always buy back in. Overall, hobby, 2 minutes. This way I keep this under 20. I have two ways of attacking this that are going to be opposites. Number one, the friggin' Cheeto stuff, that is ridiculous. I can't believe we're doing that. It's so dumb. The fact that Dick's bought the Paul Skeens card, I mean, smart on them. People were telling me, why is it sell for $1 million? I was messaging people on Instagram, you guys know who you are, saying that it's going to sell for more than $1 million. People are like, you're insane. And I was telling them that a business will buy it. Just like a company bought the Shohei Ohtani 50-50 ball, right? They're going to put it on display. It'll be a write-off, right? Like if I was Jeff Wilson, I would have bought the ball. Put it on display in Cards HQ, let people take pictures with it, bring people in and write it off. You know what I mean? Depreciate the asset over time, and also get in the good graces of Fanatics if that's where you want to be. So I was telling people about this. So I was the least surprised that a company like Dick's bought it, especially given their obvious relationship with a sports apparel brand. That said, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Because I know people who have millions of dollars in cards. Millions of dollars in cards. And say what you want about what Fanatics is doing, they're bringing eyeballs. They are bringing eyeballs. And that's what you want. You want attention on the space. You want money coming in the space. You want athletes in the space. They are doing all of that in spades. And while not every step that they've made has been a positive one or has been the success they wanted it to be, they canceled some events. The Mercury Wembanyama, there are Mercury Stroud inserts in Finest. Maybe they were looking to do a Mercury Stroud and just didn't roll it out because of what happened with the Wemby Mercury. I don't know what the answer is there, but not every step's going to be right. But they keep throwing them out there. The Topps Now stuff, they have to be making a killing on that. And if you're a collector, it gives you this opportunity every time to get something cool, something new, an auto, a chance, a lottery ticket, you name it, of getting something cool. I like what they're doing there. I do, because it's more news. It's more of the cycle. It's more things that keep this space kind of front and center. Yahoo is reporting on it. Sports Illustrated is reporting on it. When these big sales happen, it's on my ESPN app. That's all things that did not previously happen and are happening now. And I think that the reason why I may be getting some of the offers I'm getting on some of my cards is because there have been people coming into the space based on their new PR. These are some new eyeballs, some new money coming in, and maybe they're just the first. So that's my take on the overall space. I don't want to wax poetic on it. I mean, I'm not getting paid to do it. I just wanted to talk about it, right? Because there was a cool, this and that. Here's my own hobby journey, but that's got to be set against the backdrop of, if the hobby is not in the right hands, you should sell everything now anyway. And I'm not doing that, because I think we are on a good path. I think what Fanatics is doing is for the most part bringing the right eyeballs, bringing the right people, and tapping the right things, right? More athletes can't be wrong, right? Think about that. And when you see somebody like Tom Brady involved with Fanatics and then going a step further, not just being involved with the company, but now putting his name on the card ball, the card stores, he's basically putting his name on the hobby. I mean, that's the GOAT, right? That's the best to ever do it in football. That wasn't the case pre-Fanatics. And I'm sure it's not the last one of those kind of stories that's going to happen here. So I layer in my own collecting decisions, my own investing decisions about the hobby based on those kind of things as well. That's the backdrop. When you have that kind of a backdrop, it's easier to hold these cards and not sell them. And there's your episode, brought to you for the time being by Arena Club and Bleecker Trading. And I got my Fun Your Cards hat on because I used them multiple times last week alone. So reach out to them if you want to consolidate some of your Griffies and Shaqs and you name it into a card that you might not have the cash for, but you do have cards to trade up for it and consolidate. And there's your episode, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Take care and enjoy the hobby.